Hello friends, we'll be discussing the cost function, that is one part of the cost function, that is short-run cost. Earlier we learned about what is cost function. We understood there are two different kinds of cost function, just like product function. That is short-run cost and long-run cost. So now we'll be discussing the concept of short-run cost. We are slowly reaching to the end of this chapter itself, whereby the production concept has been already cleared out. Now the cost concept, we almost like interval 50% of it is already done. Now we're reaching the end of it, that is known as short-run cost. Let's understand what short-run cost is basically. The short-run cost, or rather the short-run, is defined to be the period when at least some of the factors are fixed and some are variable. Clearly says that when some of the factors are fixed and some of the factors of inputs basically are variable, such a situation is known as short-run, or rather that situation will be called as short-run period. In the short-run, firms, plant and equipment are the most difficult inputs to change quickly. In the short-run firm, or rather whenever it comes to a firm which is running on a short-run cost here, plant, that is one thing, and equipments, that may be machinery. So plant may be a factory, equipments may be a machinery here. These are short-run items. That means they are not supposed to be changed quickly. Why exactly? Or why do we think that they cannot be changed quickly? First, the cost of these two things are very huge, very humongous. You cannot keep on changing the equipment every now and then. You cannot keep on changing the equipment within 6 months. Why? Is because imagine if you're taking a car right now, you at least expect that car to work for next 5 years without giving you any kind of problems, right? Now that is again an equipment for you. But if you change your car every 2 months, every 3 months, every 6 months, that's going to be a lot of cost for you, because you will figure out that you are spending a lot of money in buying cars and selling off cars and the cost related to it, and that will be again an additional weight on your income. Hence, you need to make sure that short-run costs, so basically plants and machineries or plants and equipments, are very difficult to change when it comes to short-run firms. Now, therefore, in short-run, there are two types of cost: fixed cost and variable cost. So we need to analyze, or rather we need to figure out short-run in two costs basically. One is the fixed cost and the second one will be the variable cost. Now how exactly we do this is something that we're going to understand right now. Let's start with that. Fixed cost is the first thing that we'll be checking out. In short run, firm requires to incur few fixed costs initially in the short period irrespective of the level of output. Whatever may be the level of output, whatever level of output we are discussing about, or whatever be the level of output, firm has to incur these fixed costs. For example, rent, for example, wages, for example, machineries cost, for example, reparation of machineries, plants, etc. Whatever is basic, like if you go out of your house, you require clothes, you require shoes, you require something that you can wear on your body and something that can cover your legs or something that can cover your feet while walking. These are the basic requirements. If this is not there, you cannot go out of your house naked until it is a completely naked world. That is one thing that you understand. So these are the fixed costs. These are the fixed things that you require by hook or by crook. No matter how broke you are, you will still require food to eat. That is something basic that you require. Such are the fixed costs here. Now, for example, a firm would need land to build a factory, correct? An electricity connection to run the machines, absolutely right. Machines to produce output, some managers or employees to manage each function. These are the basic requirements of the firm. That means any company would require a land where it can set up a company there or set up a factory there. Electricity is required to run the factory, run the machines. Machines are required to produce the output, and some employees, some managers are required to handle each and every function here. These are the basic requirements. Without this, the product cannot be produced, no matter you have the raw material. But if there is no machines to produce that raw material, how are you going to convert it, right? Now, all these expenditures are not independent to the level of output and are required to incur before start. Whatever these expenditures, or rather whatever expenditures that we're talking about, they are not independent to the level of output, or that means whatever level of output is required, according to that you cannot shorten these things or you cannot change them. For example, if you require 10 units of output, You cannot require, either you don't require half of the machinery or you don't require one fourth of the machinery. You will still require one machinery for sure. The cost of one machinery as compared to the 10 units of output will be very much as compared to that specific unit. So you require one machinery, you prepare how many level of output that you want. You can prepare 10, you can prepare 0, you can prepare 15, 20, whatever level of output you want, you can prepare that thing. It doesn't matter, but one machine cost is supposed to be bared here. So these are required to incur before the production even starts. As they mentioned, before the production starts, you need that machine to be in place so that you can make those things. Now, thus, fixed costs are those costs which are incurred in hiring the fixed factors of production whose amounts cannot be changed in the short run. No matter if the short run or long run, these amounts cannot be changed. These amounts are fixed costs that you have to bear by any circumstances, or rather in any circumstances you have to bear these things. Next one will be the variable cost. The next cost that we are discussing here is the variable cost. Let me just put down things in a different way, different ink, so that it is very much easy for you to understand what exactly we are discussing about. You have taken orange ink right now. Let's start with that. What exactly are we trying to discuss here is the variable cost. Now variable, as you know, or as the name suggests, it keeps on changing. Variable cost is the one which keeps changing with the changes in the level of output. You require 10 units of output, variable cost is 100. You require 20, the variable cost might go to 150. 30, it might go to 200. Alright, so see, with different level of output, the cost is changing here, not exorbitantly, but with a marginal change here, that cost is changing. So whenever you're talking about these costs, you need to understand that these things are dependent on the level of output and they are not independent here. So if you require less output, less variable cost. If you require more output, more variable cost. Now, it includes the expenditures incurred on the employment of variable factors, including prices of raw material, fuel, power used for the payments of workers, etc. So whatever fuel is required, whatever wages are required, how many employees are required, all these things are variable. For a factory, it is not necessary that you need to have hundreds of people there. If work can be done within 10 different people or 10 different managers, you don't require one manager basically for every individual here. One manager can handle 10 people, it is absolutely fine. You just require 10 people if you have a workforce of 100 people here or 100 employees. So 10 managers is more than enough to handle them. These are variable basically. Variable cost remains zero until firm does not produce any output. If there are no output produced, variable cost will be zero. Only fixed cost will keep on going. Hence, the moment production keeps on starting on, or rather production is continuous, variable cost will be there. Thereby, variable cost varies with the increase in the level of output. We have discussed that earlier. Total cost in the short run, or rather total cost in the short run is what? Total cost is the sum of total fixed cost and total variable cost. Hence, the formula that we can see here is total fixed cost plus total variable cost. Let me just highlight that thing so that it is easy for you to understand what exactly we are talking about. This is the total fixed cost, right? So total fixed cost plus total variable cost. If I have to highlight that in a different way, I will do something different. Now what exactly that is, let us see that. So this is the total fixed cost that we are talking about, correct? This is the total fixed cost plus total variable cost. Now whatever total fixed cost and total variable cost, that will comprise of the total cost. For example, if the total fixed cost is 100 rupees and the total variable cost is around 20 rupees, so this 100 and this 20 will give you a total cost of 120. That is the cost of one product, or rather one unit of the product. So this is how the total cost combination is done. Now there is one graph chart that we have here for your reference. Let us read that. Short run total cost, total variable cost, and total fixed cost. TVC, TFC, and short run cost, or total cost. So basically there are three figures. One, that is total cost, second, that is total variable cost, and third, that is total fixed cost. As this name suggests, total fixed cost, it will be fixed. No matter whatever level of output, it will remain the same. So if you can see in the graph, this is the total fixed cost line. Can you see it is constant? It is not changing whatever level of output. This is the cost, this is the output. So if you have this much of output, it will still be the same. This much of output, it will still be the same. This much of output, it will still be the same. What will change is the total variable cost, and the combination of this will lead to changes in the total cost as well. So this is the total variable cost. Now whatever changes happens here, we'll see the similar effect in total cost as well, because only thing that is changing here is the total variable cost factor, and as the fixed cost is absolutely fixed, there is no changes in that, hence you won't see any difference in there. The shape of total cost, total variable cost, and total fixed cost curves are present in this figure. Output is measured on x-axis and cost on the y-axis. This we have defined. Now let us go read some details of this. Total fixed cost is parallel to x-axis, which indicates that it remains constant wherever or whatever be the level of output. So if this is the graph here that we have to discuss, this is the total fixed cost. So this is TFC, total fixed cost. This is what you have derived, this is what you have thought of. All right, now instead of starting from 0, it starts from y-axis. That implies this is the y-axis, this is the x-axis. Here you're talking about cost, here you're talking about output. Now you would question, why is this line starting from somewhere on the y-axis and not from the origin? This is the origin. Why isn't it starting from here? Because this is a fixed cost. No matter whatever level of output is there, or if there is no output or not, this is a cost that you have to bear. You cannot just say that I cannot pay that rent because I'm not producing anything. You cannot do like that. You have to bear that cost. Hence, firm has to incur this OA level. This is OA, this is the OA level of incur before it starts the production. This may be the land cost, machines cost, etc. On the other hand, total variable starts from the origin and it varies from the level of output. So if total variable cost, if this is starting from origin and if this is going like this is the total variable cost curve. All right, now this total variable cost curve can talk about, this will fluctuate, this will change as and how the level of output changes. Total cost also starts from A, whereby, or rather which is located on y-axis. Now before that we could read out this thing, TVC was 0 when the firm was not producing. Can you see it starts from 0? That is, the total variable cost starts from 0 because the firm wasn't producing anything. The moment the firm's output started increasing, it went up, 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 up. Why? Is because you have been changing your production levels, and whatever level of production is being changed, if it is getting added, TVC will keep on expanding, or TVC, or that is the total variable cost curve, will keep on changing here. Now as the firm increases the level of output, TVC starts increasing and it decreases at the firm reserves, or rather revokes, completely reduces the quantity of output. The more the output, the more the TVC on the higher side. The less the output, the more the TVC on the lower side here. That is what, or rather it is very simple to understand. Now total cost curve starts from a point A which is located on y-axis. Maybe this is the total cost curve that we're talking about. This is the point A. It starts from here. Alright, now it will follow in the same function as how this curve is being going, because the only changing factor that we have to discuss about is the total cost, or rather TVC. So this is what you need to understand. It starts from point A because it comprises of both fixed and variable cost. Why it starts from here, or rather why does it start from point A? Because this is the only point, that includes both variable cost and the fixed cost here. Can you see this part? Exactly. Hence, it means when the firm does not produce any single output, TFC remains equal to the total fixed cost. This TFC remains equals to the total fixed cost. All right, but does not incur any amount of variable cost. Hence TVC, or rather TVC, is equivalent to TFC because there is no output. If there is output, TVC will be changing as compared to total fixed cost here. Now short run average cost concepts. In short run there are three types of average cost. What are those three types of average cost? First is average fixed cost, AFC. Second is average variable cost, that is AVC. And the third one is average total cost, that is ATC. In short term, there are three types of average cost: average fixed, average variable, and average total cost. Now what is average fixed cost? Let us understand that first. Average fixed cost is the per unit fixed cost. What is the cost, or rather what is the fixed cost of 1 unit of product or rather 1 unit of the product that you're producing, that is known as average fixed cost here. It can be calculated by dividing the total fixed cost with the number of units of output produced. For example, total fixed cost is 200 rupees and the total output that you have done is 20 rupees. So the average fixed cost will be 10 rupees per unit. Per unit, it will be 10 rupees. This is the fixed cost that you have to pay on every unit. That is the average fixed cost here. For instance, 200 was the first unit as output, but the quantity of output increases. AFC starts declining. When the firm produced 10 units of output, AFC declined to 20. Now, let's figure out if 200 is the cost, average fixed cost or other fixed cost here. Now, if the output is increased to 40, do you think this 10 rupees will go down? Let us see. This is 4 ones are 4, 4 fives are 20. That means average fixed cost has gone down to 5 rupees per unit. How did it happen? It happened because the average fixed cost will remain same, but the number of output that keeps on changing will reduce your fixed cost for sure. Hence, the more number of outputs that you do, fixed cost gets distributed evenly between them. Hence, average fixed cost per unit goes down here. That's the reason behind it. Now, this is the formula whereby we have mentioned total fixed cost upon units of output that gives you average fixed cost here. Let us see the table that has been given here. Zero output, fixed cost is 200, variable cost is 0, total cost is 200. AFC, that is average fixed cost, average variable cost, average total cost 0. One output 200, variable cost is 120, total cost is 320, that is 200 plus 120, 320 here. Average fixed cost is total cost upon one output that gives you, or rather total fixed cost upon one output. This will give you 200. Average variable cost is this total cost upon one output. Average total cost is this upon this. So if you have to find out the average of anything, let's take for example, if you have to find out average fixed cost, then the formula will be total fixed cost upon output. Alright, this is one. If you have to figure out average variable cost, then will be total variable cost upon output. This is second. And if you have to figure out average total cost, that will be total cost upon output. This is the formula that you can apply. This is the formula that you can think of. Let me just rub this so that it is pretty clear for you to understand how exactly this is done. So if you see, these are the outputs that we have derived here. These are the things that we have figured out. Let's go on to the last. 10 output, 200 is a fixed cost that is going to remain fixed. Can you see this thing? This is absolutely fixed, no changes in that. Variable cost has gone to 1015 and total cost has gone to 1215. If you have to figure out average fixed cost here, that will be 200 upon 10, that gives you 20 rupees. Here it is mentioned. Average variable cost will be total variable cost 1015 upon 10, that gives you 101.5. Correct. Now average total cost will be 1215 upon 10, that is 121.5, that is mentioned here. Hence, that is the changes that we have figured out, or rather these are the things that we have mentioned out. Now marginal cost is what we're talking about. If you see the marginal cost, that is the changes. Like earlier it was total 200, it has changed to 320. The difference between them is 120. Now earlier, if we have to say the total cost was 200, now it has gone to 175, or rather 320, 175. The difference between them is taken into consideration here. Hence, that is the marginal cost of producing one extra unit here. Now let us read certain details on this. Average variable cost. Average variable cost is a per unit variable cost. It is the total variable cost divided by the units of output. For instance, AVC was 120. This is a formula that we can think of, or rather that we have to remember. Now, if the average variable cost was 120 for first unit of output, but the quantity of output increases, AV starts declining. This is very simple. The number of quantity that you increase, average variable cost will keep on declining here. AVC was nil when the quantity of the output was 0. As the production increased, AVC initiated decreasing, or rather AVC initially started declining, and after a certain level of output it started increasing. If you see this thing, average variable cost, it started declining. Alright, it is starting declining, but then after a certain level of output, like this one, let me just reiterate that part for you. Now average level of output, it started increasing. How? See, this is 55 here, it has gone to 64, it started increasing here. This is what they're talking about. It reached to a minimum when output increased, so up to 5 units. As the firm continuously expanded, its ABC started increasing from the unit tables onwards. That. Now the next is average total cost. Average total cost is the total cost of per unit of output. It is a sum of average fixed cost and average variable cost. That is average fixed cost plus average variable cost. Let me just write it in a better way for you to understand it. Now this we are talking about, that is sum of average fixed cost plus average variable cost. Can you see this, the formula that we have mentioned here? This is the formula that you need to understand. Now, as in, or rather whatever table 4.4 shows, the earlier table, it showed that the average cost for the first unit was 320. That is the total fixed cost 200 plus average variable cost 120, total is 320. Now it continued to decline until 7th unit of output. Let us check that. 7th unit of output, it continued to keep on declining. All right, now this is the average fixed cost, average total cost, it continued to decline. After 7th unit, 84 it was earlier, then it came down to 83. After 7th unit, it went to 89.4, then it kept on increasing. Why is that? As the firm continued expansion of the product, average units cost started increasing. This is very genuine. So whenever the average cost has to increase, it will increase after a certain level of output itself. Now the next one is marginal cost. Marginal cost refers to the increase in total cost by one additional unit. So whatever one additional output that you create, if you earlier had 7 units, then you created one more unit, that is total of 8 units. Whatever additional unit or whatever additional expenses that you bear in creating that additional unit, that is known as marginal cost. Now marginal cost is the addition to the total cost of producing n units instead of n minus 1. For example, 8 units, 8, n is equal to 8 that we're talking about. So whatever cost you produce, or rather whatever cost you put into in creating n units, that is 8 units, and n minus 1, that is 8 minus 1, which is 7 units. So the difference between them is known as the marginal cost here. So for instance, marginal cost of the first unit of the output was 30 and the firm increased its production from 2 to 3. Symbolically, this is reaching to the maximum point. Similarly, this can be written as change in total cost upon change in output. Change in total cost upon change in output. Let's see how this formula works here. Now, change in total cost. What is the change in total cost here? Earlier it was 320, now it is 125 total cost. Let's take this. 320 was the earlier total cost. 350 is the next total cost, that is 30 rupees is the change. Can you see, this is the marginal cost. 350 was the earlier cost, 370 is the new cost. The difference between them is 20 mentioned here. 370 is the earlier cost, 402 difference is 32 that has been mentioned here. Every change in the total cost with the earlier comparison to it will lead to the formation or rather derivation of marginal cost here. That has been explained. Now let's go on to the next part here. Now after all these definitions, we'll be understanding the graphical representation of it. Let's start with that. Understanding the relationship between AFC, that is average fixed cost, average variable cost, average total cost and marginal cost are very, very critical. You need to understand how exactly these are interlinked and related. Which one is on top, which one is on bottom, which one is in between. Except marginal cost, other three are very closely related to each other. If you leave marginal cost aside, average fixed cost, average variable cost and the average total cost, because that is a composition of both average fixed and variable here, all three of them are closely related to each other. Now it is so because AFC is independent to the level of output, as a firm must make investment in the form of plant and machinery as well as employ some manual stuff. Why is this? Because AFC is independent. It is completely independent. You cannot change AFC because the firm has to buy machineries, the firm has to buy plants, the firm has to input cost in buying or rather employing managers, wages for laborers, etc. All these things are very, very important. You cannot just skip them. So these are like fixed costs. You have to bear them at all, no matter whether you're producing things or you're not producing things. Now, these costs do not change with level of output. No matter what is your level of output, you produce 10 units, you produce 1000 units, these costs are going to remain the same. For example, you rent a factory, or rather you rent a land or factory. Will that person who is lending or rather renting that same place to you, or rather is giving that same place to you, the word is subletting, or whether he's letting that place to you, will he say that, okay, if this output of your goes to 10,000 units, then you can give me less rent? If this goes to 20,000, you can cut down the rent further. Will he say like that? Of course not. It is not his lookout. He will give you a fixed price of the rent. You have to pay that. You produce 10,000 units, 10 units, 20,000 units, your lookout. That is not his lookout. Hence, that is a fixed cost that we're talking about. On the other hand, other costs such as average variable cost and the average total cost will keep on changing depending on the level of output. Why? Because these are variable, dependent cost on the level of output. These are dependent on level of output. You enjoy 20,000 output, you will have to pay average variable cost according to that. You enjoy only 2,000 output, you have to pay less cost according to that. That is the difference. Now let's see the graph here. See, this is one of the most important. I'll write it here. Very important. This is very important to understand. Now this is the average fixed cost. Let us take some different ink so that you understand that better. This is the average fixed cost that you have to take into consideration. If you see, this thing is going from left to right and it is lowering down itself. The more the cost, the more or rather the less the output, number of output keeps on increasing, this cost keeps on decreasing. Hence, if this output is derived, this output is derived, this output is derived, the amount will be fixed, no doubt about that. But the per unit cost of this average variable or rather average fixed cost will keep on declining. This is the per unit cost I'm talking about, not talking about the total fixed cost here. Now the next one is the average total, or rather let's talk about average variable cost. Let us take some different ink. This is the average variable cost that we're talking about. So if you see this average variable cost, it will keep on increasing as the number of output keeps on increasing. So if this is the output, this is the output, this is the output, and this. So it will keep on increasing depending on the level of output that you're talking about. And so will the average total cost as well. Let me highlight that with red. So this total cost will also keep on increasing. See, earlier it was declining. All of these curves, if you see, earlier they are declining and then they are suddenly increasing after a certain level of output. Hence, average total cost and average variable cost will keep on increasing after a certain level of output. And this, my friends, is certain thing that we're talking about. This is the marginal cost curve. Marginal cost will keep on increasing again after a certain level of output. This is the cost, this is the output that we're talking about. Now, this figure presents the relationship between average total cost, average variable cost, average fixed cost, and marginal cost curves. It is noticed that average fixed cost has been continuously declining. You notice that. On the other hand, average variable, ATC and MC have initially declined. They initially declined and after a certain level of output, it started increasing. I told you the reason also why it starts increasing, because after a certain level of output, it has to go up. The number of output increases, the number of these costs also increases. It is unlike average fixed cost. Average fixed cost is declining continuously. It is a fixed cost and the unit of output increases, the per unit, that is the average, goes on down. So if you have like one person who's sharing that rent, let's take a best example for this. You are renting a house, okay? You are the only person who is giving out the rent. You will be paying 30,000 here, all right? You bring another person, now you will be paying only 15,000. The next 15,000 will be paid by this person. You bring in three people, 10,000, 10,000, 10,000. See, the cost is declining. 4 people, again it will be divided between 4 people. 5 people, again it will be divided between 5 people. So earlier we used to pay 30,000 in whole by one person. When you got in 5 people, 6,000 came for each people. Hence the average fixed cost is declining with the increasing output. This is the example that you can think of. Now, average variable cost is U-shaped. Let us go back to the same thing to see if it is U-shaped or not. Average variable cost. See, this is the U shape that we're talking about. That's right. Now, when we are talking about average variable cost, it is U-shaped as the units of output increases. Initially it decreases, and owing to the economics of scale, it will increase as in the level of output increases. So no matter when the level of output increases, this will also increase according to that. At point B, per unit, variable cost reaches its minimum point as economies of scale vanishes. What is economies of scale? That we'll understand in the later part, but that vanishes, and that's the reason it starts increasing here. After point B, diseconomies of scale will increase, and hence the AVC curve will be up. It will pull as the output is increasing here. Hence, increase in the output is accompanied by increase in variable cost. Let's take the same example now. 6 people are staying in a rented house. The food earlier used to take food for just one person, that is you. Now the food will increase for 6 people. Earlier, the rice that was required was 1 kilo for a month. That is fine with you. Now you require 6 kilo for a month because 6 people. Understood? Hence, the average variable cost will keep on increasing. That's how it is. Now, ATC is also U-shaped, that is average total cost is also U-shaped. It initially declines up to a point A because of the economies, and after point A, diseconomy starts, and hence ATC is pulled upwards. Same logic with, because why ATC is pulling upwards is because ATC is a composition of fixed cost and variable cost. Hence, average total cost will keep on increasing if the variable cost also keeps on increasing. And variable cost keeps on increasing because the output is increasing, my friends. Hence, that's the reason. Now, but the interesting point is that ATC continues to decline even when average variable cost is increasing to a minimum point of ATC lies to the right of the minimum point of AVC. The interesting fact is that ATC continues to decline to a certain level. Even AVC is increasing substantially, ATC will initially decline only for a certain point, even if AVC is increasing. After that, the AVC or rather ATC will keep on increasing. So if the average variable cost is increasing at output 5, for example, average total cost will increase at output 7. So there is a difference of 2 units whereby ATC will still keep on declining. It will only rise after 7 outputs. However, variable cost will rise after 5 outputs itself. This is what they're trying to explain. Now, it is so because ATC is a sum of average fixed cost and average variable cost. That's the reason here why not 5 and it increases at 7. This is why. So till decline in AFC is greater than increase in AFC, the net effect will pull down the ATC unless and until the AFC decline is happening, which is greater than the AVC. If the average fixed cost decline is greater than, or rather the average fixed cost per unit is greater than the average total or rather average variable cost, this ATC cost will keep on declining. If average fixed cost or rather the decline in the average fixed cost is greater than average variable cost, ATC will decline. The moment average fixed cost or rather the decline in the average fixed cost is greater or rather is less than the average variable cost, that's when ATC will be pulled up completely. So the magnitude of decline in AFC becomes less than the magnitude of increase in the AVC, and the net effect will be pull up of ATC, that is ATC, average total cost will start rising upwards. Now, marginal cost curve is a U-shaped curve again. All of these curves are U-shaped basically. It is important to note that marginal cost curve cuts both ATC and AVC at their respective point. This is one of the very important fill in the blanks that will be a part of your exams for sure. Marginal cost curve is a U-shaped curve. It's a U-shaped curve. It is noted that the marginal cost curve cuts both ATC and AVC at their respective minimum points. If you want, we can go back on that same thing and see whether it is true or not. Let us see that. It will be interesting for us to know. This is the marginal cost curve. It is cutting ATC and AVC at their minimum points. Can you see this A and B point? Let me just highlight that with a black note. This is the minimum point of ATC, whereby after this ATC is increasing. This is the minimum point of AVC. After this the AVC is increasing. So marginal cost is cutting both these curves at the same point. Hence the line states correct. So let's go back on the same explanation here. All right, now when we're talking about the same explanation, marginal cost is the function. Now further, marginal cost lies between AVC and ATC curve till AVC and ATC declines. Marginal cost lies between ABC and ATC until both of them starts declining. It lies above these two curves when ATC and ABC are increasing. ABC and ATC, if they're increasing, it lies above these curves. It starts declining when these two curves starts declining at all. The details that you've understood right now, the average total cost, the average fixed cost curve, average variable cost curve, and marginal cost curve, these all include, or rather these are the details that you need to understand when it comes to short run cost. So this is all the details that we have when it comes to short run cost and all the details that you need to understand. So that's all about it. That's all the video, or rather that's all the explanation that we have in the video for this specific concept of short run cost. Thank you.